Have you ever noticed that the world feels different before sunrise? Not quieter in a peaceful way, but heavier, as if something important is waiting to happen, and only a few people are awake enough to notice it. Most people think waking up early is about discipline or productivity. They're wrong. The real secret of 5 a.m. has nothing to do with alarms or motivation. It's about control. And this story begins with a man who had absolutely none. Ethan Miller was not lazy. That's important to understand. He worked hard, sometimes harder than anyone around him. He stayed late at work, skipped weekends, answered emails at night, and still his life never moved forward. At 34, he lived in a small rented apartment with thin walls, unpaid bills on the kitchen table, and a constant pressure in his chest that never fully went away. Every morning, his alarm rang at 7:30 a.m., and every morning he hit snooze. Not because he loved sleep, but because waking up meant facing the same life again. Same job, same stress, same feeling of falling behind while everyone else seemed to be moving ahead. On his commute, Ethan watched people through train windows. Some looked exhausted like him. Others looked calm, focused, almost prepared. He couldn't explain it, but there was a difference. At work, he followed orders, completed tasks, waited for approval that never came. Promotions went to people who spoke less but seemed more confident, people who arrived early, people who left early, people who didn't look rushed. Ethan stayed late and felt invisible. At night, he promised himself that tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, he would wake up early. Tomorrow, he would change something. But tomorrow always arrived the same way, tired. One evening, after another long day, the power went out in his apartment. No lights, no internet, no distractions. He sat by the window, watching the city glow faintly in the distance. For the first time in months, his mind slowed down, and a question surfaced that scared him more than failure itself. What if this is all my life will ever be? Not because he lacked talent, but because he never took control of his time. He went to sleep that night uneasy, restless, and woke up 3:47 a.m. without an alarm. At first, he tried to fall back asleep. He turned, he sighed, he checked the time again. Something felt different. The world outside was still. No traffic, no notifications, no demands. For reasons he couldn't explain, he got up. He made coffee and sat at the small table near the window. His thoughts were sharper than usual, clearer. He didn't feel rushed, and for the first time in years, his mind wasn't reacting to the day, it was leading it. He wrote down everything that scared him, his job, his money, his future. Then he wrote one line that would quietly change his life. No one owns this hour but me. That morning, he didn't suddenly become successful. Nothing magical happened, but something invisible shifted. At 5 a.m., while the city slept, Ethan realized the world wasn't competing with him yet. No emails, no bosses, no expectations, just space. And space, he learned, is where power is built. When the sun finally rose and the noise returned, he felt strangely ahead, not smarter, not richer, but positioned. That day, he noticed things he never had before, how often he reacted instead of planned, how much of his energy was spent catching up instead of creating momentum. The next night, he slept earlier without forcing it, and the next morning, he woke up again before dawn, this time intentionally. He didn't scroll, he didn't rush, he read, he thought, he planned, not goals, systems, small actions he could repeat. By the third morning, something unsettling happened. He started to enjoy the silence, not because it was calm, but because it was honest. No applause, no validation, just effort. And effort without an audience does something dangerous to a person. It makes them independent. Ethan didn't tell anyone about his new routine, not friends, not coworkers, because he sensed something fragile forming, like a fire that would die if exposed too early. At work, people noticed a difference before he did. He spoke less but with more certainty. He stopped volunteering for meaningless tasks. He left on time. He made decisions faster. His manager asked if everything was okay. Ethan simply nodded. Inside, he knew something most people didn't. He had already lived half a day before they woke up. What Ethan was discovering wasn't motivation, it was leverage. The 5 a.m. hour wasn't about doing more, it was about doing the right things before the world told him what to do. And once you taste that kind of control, going back becomes impossible. But this was only the beginning, because the real cost of owning your mornings isn't waking up early, it's outgrowing the life that kept you asleep. And Ethan was about to learn that the 5 a.m. secret doesn't just change schedules, it changes identities. Ethan didn't realize it yet, but the quiet hours before sunrise were slowly separating him from the life he used to accept. The more control he gained over his mornings, the less tolerance he had for meaningless days. At first, the changes were subtle. He stopped checking his phone the moment he woke up. He stopped reacting to news, messages, and other people's urgency. Instead, he sat with a notebook and asked himself one uncomfortable question every morning. What actually moves my life forward today? Not what looks busy, not what impresses others, what truly matters. Weeks passed, and the effect compounded. While others complained about lack of time, Ethan felt like he had found hidden hours no one else knew existed. He used them to learn skills he had postponed for years. He studied quietly, consistently, without telling anyone. No social media posts, no announcements, just progress. And progress, when done in silence, creates a dangerous kind of confidence. Not the loud type, the unshakable kind. One morning, during his commute, Ethan noticed something that changed how he saw people forever. The same faces boarded the train every day at the same time, with the same tired expressions. They talked about the same problems, the same frustrations, the same dreams they never acted on. It hit him then. Most people weren't tired because life was hard. They were tired because every day was a repeat of the last. Same wake-up time, same routines, same excuses. And repetition without intention slowly drains the soul. At work, Ethan was no longer emotionally invested in approval. He did his job well, but he no longer needed validation. That alone made him stand out. When a critical project fell apart due to poor planning, his manager asked if anyone had ideas. The room went silent. Ethan spoke calmly, clearly outlining a solution he had thought through weeks earlier during his early mornings. Not rushed, not desperate, prepared. The room listened. For the first time, his voice carried weight. Opportunities began to appear not because he chased them, but because he was ready when they showed up. A senior colleague asked how he stayed so focused. Ethan smiled and said nothing useful, because some advantages lose their power when explained too early. The truth was simple. While others were sleeping, Ethan was designing his life instead of reacting to it. But growth has a price. The more disciplined he became, the uncomfortable his old habits felt. Late night scrolling felt empty. Complaining felt pointless. Even some friendships began to feel misaligned. Not because others were bad people, but because they were still living in cycles Ethan had quietly exited. This was the part no one talks about. Waking up early doesn't just change your schedule. It changes who you can relate to. One morning, around 4:58 a.m., Ethan stood by his window watching the city slowly wake up. Lights flickered on, cars appeared, the noise returned, and he realized something chilling. Most people wake up into chaos. They let the world set the tone of their day. But those who own their mornings choose their tone before the world interferes. That's the real 5 a.m. secret. It's not about productivity. It's about sovereignty over your mind. The discipline began to spill into other areas of his life. He became selective with commitments, ruthless with distractions. He stopped saying yes out of fear. He stopped saying no out of laziness. Every choice was filtered through one question. Does this respect the life I'm building? If not, it didn't get his time.
Slowly, the anxiety that once followed him everywhere began to fade. Not because his life was perfect, but because it was intentional. Then came the test, a setback that would have broken the old Ethan. A major project he led faced unexpected resistance, politics, delays, blame. For a moment, frustration crept back in, but the mornings had rewired him. Instead of reacting emotionally, he stepped back. He used his early hours to think, not panic, to plan, not complain. Within weeks, he turned the situation around, not through force, but through clarity. People started asking different questions now. How do you stay so calm? How do you always seem one step ahead? Ethan never answered directly, because the truth was uncomfortable. The advantage wasn't talent, it wasn't luck, it was consistency when no one was watching. It was choosing effort when excuses felt easier. It was waking up early when comfort begged him to stay asleep. And here's what most people never realize until it's too late. The gap between the life you want and the life you have is often built in silence. Early mornings, private discipline, invisible work. No applause, no shortcuts, just repeated decisions to show up before the world demands anything from you. Ethan didn't become successful overnight, but he became dangerous in a different way. He became someone who could not be controlled by circumstances, someone who didn't wait for motivation, someone who understood that the morning doesn't reward effort, it rewards presence. And this was only the middle of his transformation, because once you master your mornings, the next challenge is even harder, maintaining it when life finally starts to improve. Ethan quickly learned that improvement brings a new kind of danger. When life starts getting better, discipline is tested harder than when life is painful. Success whispers comfort. Comfort invites relaxation, and relaxation, if unchecked, quietly drags you back to old habits. This is where most people fall, not at the beginning, but right after progress starts to show. His schedule became fuller, more responsibility at work, more people asking for his time. Invitations he once dreamed of receiving now arrived regularly. Late dinners, networking events. Just one night won't hurt, people said, and Ethan felt the pull. He was human. Some mornings waking up felt heavier than before, not because life was hard, but because it was easier. One night after returning home late, he overslept and missed his early alarm. The sun was already up when he opened his eyes. A strange unease filled his chest. Nothing terrible had happened, no disaster, but something felt off, like skipping a heartbeat. That morning, he rushed through the day and noticed how quickly his focus scattered. His patience shortened. Small frustrations felt larger. By evening, he understood the lesson clearly. The morning wasn't just a habit anymore, it was his anchor. So he adjusted, not by becoming rigid, but by becoming deliberate. If he had a late night, he compensated the next morning. If sleep was short, he protected the first quiet minutes even more fiercely. He stopped chasing perfection and focused on continuity. Because momentum doesn't require intensity, it requires loyalty to the process. As months passed, the results became undeniable. His career advanced steadily. His financial stress eased. His confidence no longer depended on outcomes. But the biggest change wasn't external, it was internal. He trusted himself now. He knew that no matter what happened, he had a private space each morning where he could recalibrate, think clearly, and rebuild if necessary. One early morning, while walking through a nearly empty street, Ethan saw a man sitting on a bench, head in hands, phone glowing in the dark. The man looked exhausted, defeated. Ethan recognized that look. It was his old reflection. For a brief moment, he considered stopping, saying something, but he didn't, because transformation can't be given. It has to be chosen. What Ethan understood now is something few people ever accept. Most lives don't change because people wait for the perfect moment. They wait for motivation, clarity, confidence. But those things don't come first. They are built quietly, daily, before the world wakes up. The morning doesn't ask who you are. It shapes who you become. He stopped measuring success by titles or money alone. Instead, he asked one simple question every night before sleeping. Did I respect tomorrow's version of myself today? If the answer was yes, he slept peacefully. If not, he corrected course the next morning. No guilt, no drama, just responsibility. Years later, people would describe Ethan as lucky. They'd say things like he figured life out or things just worked out for him. He never corrected them because luck is a comforting lie people tell themselves to avoid facing uncomfortable truths. The truth was far less glamorous and far more powerful. He won his mornings when no one was watching. He showed up when quitting felt easier. He stayed consistent after results appeared. And that consistency quietly rewrote his entire life. So now, let me ask you something, not as a storyteller, but as someone who knows how this ends. What would change in your life if tomorrow morning belonged to you instead of your phone, your job, or other people's expectations? What could you build in silence if you stopped giving your best energy to distractions? Who could you become if you treated the early hours as sacred? You don't need to wake up at 5 a.m. forever, but you do need a time when the world has no claim on you. That's the real secret. If this story made you think, don't scroll away. Stay with this feeling. Like the video so it reaches someone who needs this wake-up call. Subscribe, because every story here is designed to sharpen your mind, not just motivate you. And tonight, before you sleep, decide one thing. Tomorrow morning, will you wake up by habit or by choice? Tomorrow morning will come whether you are ready or not. The alarm will ring, or maybe it won't. And in that moment, no one will be watching you. Not your family, not your friends, not the world. Just you, standing at a quiet crossroads that looks small but decides everything. One path is familiar. Sleep a little more. Delay again. Tell yourself you'll start someday. The other path is uncomfortable. Getting up, facing silence, choosing effort before comfort. Most people think this choice is about waking up early. It's not. It's about deciding who controls your life. Because every time you choose comfort, you train yourself to stay where you are. And every time you choose discipline, even for a few minutes, you teach your mind that you can be trusted. This is how confidence is built, not through loud promises, not through motivation videos, but through silent actions repeated when no one is clapping for you. The people you admire didn't wake up one day powerful. They became powerful by honoring small commitments over and over. They didn't wait for life to change. They prepared for it while others were sleeping. So if your life feels stuck, don't ask for a miracle. Ask for a morning, a quiet one, a disciplined one, a morning where you stop escaping and start building. You don't need to transform everything at once. Just protect 1 hour. Let it belong to your future. And if you do that consistently, one day you'll look back and realize this wasn't just a story you listened to. It was the moment your life started moving forward. If you're still here, it means something inside you knows this is true. Don't ignore that voice. Like the video to lock in this decision. Subscribe if you want more stories that change how you think, not just how you feel. And remember, your future doesn't start someday. It starts the next time you choose to wake up and take control.